Kim Iskyan joins us again. He's emerging markets analyst at Stansberry and associate investment research. He's also the editor of SA Global Contrarian, which does investment advisory business. Basically, you're really smart. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
I don't know where to begin around the world because there are hot spots everywhere, but let's start with just Europe. Explain to our audience why Europe constantly has these issues with oil and energy and the gas and all that stuff. It can never seem to find an actual long-term solution.
Well, Europe imports a lot of its energy. In total, around 53% of its total energy needs are from imports. That's virtually all of its crude oil, and that's about 2/3 of its natural gas. So the problem is that Europe just doesn't have enough energy on its own, so it has to get it from somewhere else.
So they get it from Russia, they get it from Canada, they get it some from probably all over the world.
They get it from
are they just never going to solve the problem? Are they always going to be reliant on other countries unless they actually really focus 100% on this green energy?
I think they will be, unless there's some very high-level political decision and a real desire and interest in burdening a much higher energy cost. They're going to continue to import.
Last time we spoke to you, we talked a little bit about Russia, the threat of them cutting off oil energy to the rest of Europe. Of course, we're still watching very closely what's happening on that border. The convoy of trucks apparently now moving into Ukraine territory. How concerned should we be, first of all, about the tensions there?
Well, the tensions are still quite high. I think this morning Vladimir Putin seemed to de-escalate things a little bit. If anything, to me, that's a flag that things are not going to de-escalate. There's still a great deal of tension, and for Russia and for Vladimir Putin, they've gone too far to just back away and say, sorry, it was just a big misunderstanding. They have a lot at stake here.
Now, that said, as we've watched oil prices over the last couple of weeks, they've slowly glided back down again. Should that mean to us regular folks that things are calmer? Or is there something else at work here?
I think there are potentially a million things at work. The oil price is a function of, as we all know, it's a function of a million different factors, a million different variables, and that they've coasted down. I think it's probably more a function of recent weak economic data than any sort of reflection of sort of calming on the geopolitical front.
The role China might potentially play in any of this? I mean, we saw the big gas deal with Russia, specifically with China. I mean, it's interesting because they have the deal with Russia, and then they also are buying China, in particular, buying oil and oil products from Canada as well. So there's this, it is very global.
Oh, very much so. And if I'm China, I want to also diversify my sources, because today China and Russia are friends. Tomorrow, see what happens. I think that China certainly has the upper hand in terms of its relationship with Russia, but I think all of this very much has a great deal of import for China.
Is Canada the next Saudi Arabia? I mean, are they? I mean, they're doing the oil sands, they're doing the LNG, they're doing the gas, they're doing the shale oil. They're trying to build ports on the west coast. They're trying to move the oil south on the south coast as well with the Keystone project. I mean, they're doing quite a bit, and I think they've got stuff on the east coast as well. Are they the next big energy thing?
Well, I think Canada certainly has that potential, but there are quite a few sources of energy around the world. And speaking of Europe, as we were a moment ago, Europe does get quite a bit of energy from, for example, Northern Africa. I think that we can't forget that Iran has the world's second largest reserves of energy in the world. You look at Argentina. Argentina is potentially a massive producer as well. So Canada is certainly doing a lot. I think a lot of other countries are as well.
Now, I saw an interesting statistic that the U.S. actually used less oil in the last few months when you compare it to the previous usage, and we're sort of in that summer driving season. So either Americans are getting better and more efficient at the use of energy, or we're just simply using less of it.
I think it's probably more a question of efficiency than anything else. I think when you look at the data for actual usage and what goes into those figures, it's more efficiency than anything else.
When you look at Europe and you look at the hot spots around the world, okay, and notable that the Russia-Ukraine is a big situation, but what's happening in Iraq? I mean, that is something that's scaring a lot of people. If the folks there start blowing up pipelines, okay, that's a repeat of what we saw in 1991.
I think there is the real scope for that. I think when you look at markets, when you look at commodities markets, and certainly stock markets, you do have to wonder exactly how much geopolitical risk is being factored in there, because there is that As soon as you have those, a few potential flashpoints, all it takes is just one or two of those, and suddenly you have a big mess on your hands.
Okay, let's try to avoid the big mess. We'll be watching developments around the world, all those places very closely. Thank you very much.